Right, I know gaming content when we've been doing a lot of fitness, but look, I love games. Games is where I got my start, YouTube-wise, and how could I not talk about this? It's so massive that it's got everybody speaking and going a little bit crazy too. But The Last of Us 2 has been running wild for the last week or so, and as said, it's dividing people right down the middle. That's just what happens with any high-profile game in 2020. So whatever your opinions, it's okay, good for you. I am not here to agree or disagree. I just want you to be happy. I mean that as well, so let's move on with smiles. So, The Last of Us 2. The thing with the sequel is that it never needed to exist to begin with, or at least that's how I felt after the first one. The completely ambiguous ending that doesn't follow any tropes video game often fall into was so harrowing it felt better leaving it to your imagination to figure out what was gonna happen next. It's not like you would have any control over it anyway. The idea of choice in games has always been huge, but Naughty Dog weren't interested in that at all, instead putting you in the shoes of Joel, but never letting you steer him away from the path he had chosen to walk. It's why, me included, we all played through the last chapter of the first game a second time to see if we actually had to kill that doctor who was standing over Ellie's unconscious body. You did, it was part of the story, you deal with it. It threw all kinds of morals out the window and almost left you with the thought that hero Joel was actually a villain and an asshole because he was perfectly happy to sacrifice humanity in order to save his own mental woes. It's a heavy subject to hit upon, but that's what The Last of Us did. It knew what it wanted its message to be come hell or high water. It is this that fuels the sequel as well, although this time there's even less mucking around, and that is saying something. Rather than worry about what people may have expected or what people may have wanted, Naughty Dog continued to fight forward with its own narrative, and the end result is otherworldly. If you want it summed up in a headline, we basically kill off the main guy from the first game and turn the secondary hero into a villain. What the hell? This is like Luke Skywalker joining the Emperor and his father Darth, which, by the way, is what they should have done, but there's another video for another time. I have some very interesting thoughts on the matter. As Emperor Lightning. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have recorded this little segment after the fact, but that's because I had an epiphany after the video was done. I was like, I didn't even chat about the fact that Abby is jacked. And don't worry, we are going to get into the characters of The Last of Us Part 2 later, but how can I not focus on that just for a little bit? And now I've got a bunch of people saying, Miller, how is Abby so jacked? Where is she getting her food? They're living in like basically a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It wouldn't make any sense. Well, as I've said time and time again on this channel, if you really want to get big, you will somehow get big. Also, not gonna lie, this has now inspired me to do another video. Keep an eye on my channel over the weekend. We're gonna have some fun, but ultimately, I'm never gonna moan about a video game character being jacked. It's why I love Marcus Phoenix, and now it's why I love Abby. She has been smashing those lateral raises. Yeah. In the same vein as this, The Last of Us 2 is not fun to play, but once more, that is intentional. The amount of violence gets to levels that I think are unseen, even in gaming, and it goes out of its way to try and make you feel as bad as possible, while also questioning everything you're meant to be doing. So it's an experience more than anything else, and one that's going to make me sound like a wanky idiot. What I mean by that is because it doesn't feel like other games you've played, it's something more. And yes, I know now I've said it, I hate me too. The story overall ties into this hopelessness, and talk about timing. The world here has essentially fallen by the wayside to a global pandemic as tribalism takes over. You can't take anything for granted, and large parts of the game take place in utter emptiness as you try and find ways and means to survive. Society has crumbled then, and you need to accept it. And if you can't, guess what happens? That's right, you'll die. Flipping great. And it's the core gameplay that helps with all of this too, because at its heart, it is still somewhat of a horror game. Sneaking through environments desperate to avoid some of the most grotesque enemies you could ever think is horrible, especially for someone like me. I can't handle any kind of scares in any form of entertainment, and the tension that ramps up from start to finish is enough to take years off my life, my poor heart. It would be bad enough if this was a movie, but the fact you have to be in control means it sucks twice as bad. The fact that you're also trying to progress in order to double down on your hate or to be successful in your quest for revenge just adds to how distressing this is. It would be one thing if that was a random occurrence, but it's actively what Naughty Dog has gone for. Now this is mature gaming, as it should be called. This is what it's all about. Not just littering your game with swear words and titillation, like other titles think. This is what you should do. It challenges you. And I've waffled on about this even before talking about the risk in playing as two different characters who both despise the other. I mean, leading up to release, everybody assumed that if Joel wasn't going to be the mainstay, Ellie would be. And while that's true to a certain extent, you're duped once more. As soon as you're put in the shoes of Abby, you realize the situation that is now transpiring, and that's what I mean when I say this is more than the usual bang, bang, shoot, shoot, dead, dead. Your own thoughts and feelings are actively dragged into this madness, and maybe you don't want this switch, maybe you're not into it, but tough luck, this isn't your story. And if you thought it was, you missed the point of round one, because round two's coming out with a massive uppercut. Getting to do all of this, however, does open the opportunity to see one experience from two opposing perspectives, and the more you learn, the more you have to undo what you've already assumed, even though 12 hours plus has gone by. That's like being told you're adopted when you're 30 years old. I mean, it's a wild exaggeration, but I wanted to make my point, and I feel like I did. And I would hazard a guess that Naughty Dog saw the reaction the aforementioned doctor scene got from the first game, what we've already talked about, because it's all of the emotions you had there, but multiplied by 10,000. The sequel is all about the guilt you feel for having to do things that are straight up wrong. And at a push, you're essentially playing a murderer. Like, there's a reason for the killing, sure, but is it on the up and up? I would say arguably not. And remember, you're not a hero here. You're not meant to be. You just have been born in a real shitty era and you're letting it drag you down, but so is everybody else, kinda. This wouldn't have been possible if we hadn't in many ways grown up with Ellie, and again I sound wanky, but we did. There is an innocence to her in the first game that almost serves as the only nice aspect of the whole thing, and yet years later everybody else's actions and the world around her have ensured that, like I say, she has gone down to their level. You want to scream at the TV as she basically goes off the rails, but can you blame her? Look at who her father figure was, Joel. And as likable as he could be, he was also ultimately an asshole. On top of this, Naughty Dog, as was first highlighted in The Last of Us Left Behind, doesn't shy away from social or political themes. Despite people melting down online, it only adds to the overall experience you get here. Such aspects should be represented in video games, and at no point does it feel forced, and at no point does it feel like anybody has an agenda. If anything, it's opening up doors for others to do the same without making it gratuitous, and I tell you, that takes some doing. I've seen other examples, and I wouldn't be shouting about them from the trees. So I get that not everyone has enjoyed what has been done here, but personally, I don't see it. The Last of Us 2 has done the unthinkable and taken an unexpected gem that didn't need any additions and added to that to make it better still. For me, and I know, calm down, it is one of the best, most well-realized environments you could possibly hope to play through. I hate that it treats me as nothing more than a passenger, but I love it for that reason too. I'm such an idiot, I often forgot the characters weren't real. I mean, that was stupid of me, but they're that well thought out. Finally, there's all that guitar stuff. That's good. It's well thought out, it's a bit silly, but I liked it a lot. Yeah. And there you go, that's some of my thoughts about The Last of Us 2. I know there's some spoilers in there, and I make sure there's a warning at the start, but I try to be as vague as possible too. And I get it, a lot of people hate this game. If you want to get mad in the comments, go. As I mentioned before too, I just want everyone to be happy. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll do gaming stuff here and there. I always want to keep the past alive. And if you did enjoy it, do let me know. I got a Patreon, patreon.com/SimonMiller316. But ultimately, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.